All right, so here we want to divide 2x to the fourth plus 6x cubed minus 10x plus 3, and we want to divide that by x plus 5. Now, the first thing we can notice here when we look at the dividend, right, remember the dividend is what we're dividing into. You look at the powers of x, right? We see the x to the fourth power, we see the x to the cube power, but then it skips down to x to the first power, right? Which means that there's no x squared term here. Okay? So when we divide this, right, definitely we want to make sure that we account for that, okay? So what we should do is we should rewrite it 2x to the fourth plus 6x cubed, right? But then put it as a plus 0x squared, right? And the reason why I want to do so is because we definitely don't want to combine unlike terms, okay? So we're going to rewrite the dividend so that it includes every power of x, okay? So you want to make sure you do that. Okay, so we're going from 2x to the fourth plus 6x cubed plus 0x squared minus 10x plus 3. Right now, we should be able to go ahead and do the long division here, right? So let's just write out the divisor, which is x plus 5. We'll write out the dividend, so 2x to the fourth plus 6x cubed plus 0x squared minus 10x plus 3. Okay. So then we'll just do the steps as we normally would, right? So first thing we should do is divide, right? The first term, which is 2x to the fourth, divide that by x, so we get 2x cubed. Okay, so that should be the first term here in our quotient. Okay, so we'll multiply 2x cubed times x, which is 2x to the fourth, and then 2x cubed times 5, which is plus 10x cubed. And notice that the powers do line up, right? We should only combine like terms, right? This is the key step here. Remember, we subtract these guys. So the positive 2x fourth should turn into a negative. This positive 10x cubed should also turn into a negative. So when we combine these, note that 2x to the fourth minus 2x to the fourth cancels out. Positive 6x cubed minus 10x cubed is equal to negative 4x cubed. And notice I'm going to bring down the next term. Now it is a 0x squared, right? Because really there is no x squared term. But the reason why I'm going to bring it down is because we want to make sure we only combine like terms, right? So what do we mean by that? Well, let's do the next step here, right? We have negative 4x cubed. We want to divide that by x, right? So what do we get in this case? We get minus 4x squared, right? That should be the next term in our quotient. But when we multiply negative 4x squared times x, we get negative 4x cubed. But notice what happens here, right? Negative 4x squared times 5 gives us negative 20x squared, right? And notice if we didn't have this 0x squared, we just brought down the next term, it would be an x to the first power, right? So that's why we need to put these placeholders to account for any missing terms, right? That way, when we actually go ahead and subtract this in the next step, right, this should change to a positive, this should change to a positive, and these are like terms that we can combine, right? So the x cubed term cancels out. This gives us a positive 20x squared. We'll bring down the next term, and we'll just repeat this, right? So 20x squared divided by x gives us 20x. Right? So that should be the next term here in our quotient. Right? And then 20x times x is, of course, 20x squared. 20x times 5 gives us plus 100x. As usual, we subtract these, right? Which means that this positive should change to a negative. This positive should also change to a negative. So what does that leave us with here? Negative 10 minus 100, which is negative 110x. Okay? There's still one last term to bring down here, right? The plus 3. So we can see here that the last term in our quotient should be negative 110. Okay, so we get minus 110x. And negative 110 times 5 gives us negative 550. I'm sort of running out of space here, but we see that once we change these signs, right? Once we change these signs, what is the remainder, right? The 110x and the 110x cancels out. We get positive 3 plus 550, which is 553. That's going to be our remainder, right? So we'll just write the answer up here, right? Plus the remainder, which is 553, all over the divisor, which is x plus 5. So that means that this here, right, this here should be our final answer. We have the quotient, which is what we get when we divide, plus the remainder, which is 553, over the divisor.